4 years later, she begged me not to walk away. 4 years after my wife left me for a man she believed could give her a better life, she grabbed my sleeve on the rooftop terrace of a luxury hotel in Dallas. "John," she whispered, tears gathering in her eyes, "please tell me I didn't make the biggest mistake of my life." Her fiancé was inside the ballroom, surrounded by investors and business owners. He had no idea that Rose was standing outside asking her former husband whether there was still a chance for them. For years, I had imagined that moment. I thought I would feel victorious when she finally understood what she had lost. Instead, I felt almost nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no desire to hurt her. The woman who had once been the center of my world now felt like someone from a life I had already finished living. But I wasn't always that strong. My name is John Sullivan. I was 36 when my 11-year marriage ended in a conference room at a law office in Austin, Texas. Rose sat across from me in a cream-colored suit, calm and polished. I had barely slept in 3 days. She looked as if she were signing a business contract. When I signed the final page, she released a breath and smiled. Not a sad smile, not a nervous smile, a relieved smile. That hurt more than losing the house. Rose and I met at a backyard barbecue when I was 22. I had just started working as a junior financial analyst, earning about $74,000 a year. Rose worked for a small marketing agency and dreamed of creating campaigns for national brands. She was confident, funny, and ambitious. People noticed her the moment she entered a room. I was different. I was careful. I paid bills early, kept emergency savings, and researched every major purchase. Rose used to say my stability made her feel safe. Years later, she would use those same qualities as proof that I was afraid of life. After 3 years together, we married and bought a 3-bedroom home in Cedar Park. My late uncle had left me $92,000, and I used most of it for the down payment. Rose chose the furniture, the neighborhood, and every color in the house. I didn't mind. Making her happy felt like proof that I was doing marriage correctly. For years, we were comfortable. We hosted cookouts, traveled when we could, and adopted a rescue dog named Cooper. On Sunday mornings, we drank coffee on the porch and talked about children, retirement, and the places we would visit someday. Then Rose began changing. She joined an expensive fitness club downtown. She attended late networking events. Her phone was always face down. She changed the passcode and began taking weekend client trips. Whenever I asked what was wrong, she called me insecure. Whenever I suggested time together, she said she was exhausted. One night she told me, "You don't want more from life." "I want a good life," I answered. "No, John. You want a safe life. There's a difference." I tried to change. I booked weekend trips, made reservations at trendy restaurants, and suggested moving closer to downtown. Nothing was enough. The truth arrived on a Thursday evening in October. I had cooked dinner and opened a bottle of wine. Rose came home wearing a gray coat and carrying an overnight bag. "We need to stop pretending this is working," she said. "Are you leaving?" "Yes." I asked the question even though I already knew the answer. "Is there someone else?" Rose looked away. "That isn't the only reason." His name was Blake Mercer. He was 43, recently divorced, and worked in commercial real estate development. He drove a black Porsche, lived in a luxury high-rise, and posted photographs from ski resorts and rooftop restaurants. He represented everything Rose believed I was not. When I asked how long the affair had been going on, she said, "Long enough for me to know what I want." The divorce lasted 9 months and cost me nearly $34,000 in legal fees. Rose kept the house after refinancing it. She took the newer SUV and received $53,000 from our savings. I left with my old sedan, several boxes, and enough money to rent a 1-bedroom apartment above a 24-hour auto repair shop in Round Rock. The rent was $1,050 a month. A red neon sign flashed auto service outside my bedroom window all night. On my first evening there, I sat on the floor eating cold Chinese food because I didn't own a table. My sister Natalie called. "Come stay with us. I need to do this alone." "Do what? Lose your mind in an apartment that smells like motor oil?" I looked at the blank walls. "I don't know who I am without her." Natalie went quiet. "Then maybe this is where you find out." At the time, I thought Rose had taken everything important with her. I was wrong. She had left behind the one thing I needed most, a reason to finally change. For the first 2 months, I barely functioned. I went to work, stared at spreadsheets, came home, and ate whatever could be heated in a microwave. I stopped exercising, ignored friends, gained 20 pounds, and slept in short, restless stretches. Some nights I checked Rose's social media even though I knew exactly what I would find. Rose and Blake in Miami, Rose and Blake in Napa Valley, Rose beside his Porsche outside a hotel in Santa Fe. In every photograph, she looked happier than she had looked with me in years. I hated her for that. But mostly, I hated myself for caring. My supervisor, Denise Harper, eventually called me into her office. "You made 4 errors this month," she said. "I'll fix them." "That isn't the issue. You're not going through the divorce, John. You're drowning in it." She pushed a folder toward me. "You're taking 10 days of paid leave." "I don't need 10 days. You need something." "You look like you haven't slept since the Bush administration." I almost laughed. On the 3rd morning of my leave, I woke at 4:17 to rain hitting the window and an air compressor roaring below me. I went into the bathroom and looked at myself under the fluorescent light. My face was swollen. My shoulders were rounded. My eyes looked empty. For months, I had asked why I wasn't enough for Rose. That morning, I asked something different. When did I stop being enough for myself? The answer was painful. Long before Rose abandoned me, I had abandoned myself. I had stopped learning, stopped taking risks, and stopped caring for my body. I had built my identity around being a reliable husband and employee. When the marriage disappeared, I had no idea who remained. I stared at my reflection. "Enough," I said. At 6 that morning, I entered a boxing gym near Interstate 35. It wasn't a luxury fitness center. The room smelled like leather, sweat, and disinfectant. Heavy bags hung from steel beams, and old fight posters covered the walls. A broad-shouldered trainer with tattoos on both arms looked at me. "First time?" "Yes." "What are you training for?" I thought about Rose smiling beside Blake. "Everything." His name was Isaiah Brooks. During my first session, I nearly threw up. I couldn't complete 3 rounds on the heavy bag. My legs shook and my lungs burned. Isaiah handed me a towel. "You going through a divorce? Is it that obvious? You hit the bag like it owes you alimony." I laughed for the first time in weeks. I returned the next morning, then the next. Isaiah understood anger. "Pain is fuel," he told me. "But fuel needs direction. Otherwise, it burns down the whole house." I trained 5 mornings a week. I stopped drinking alone, learned to cook real meals, and deleted Rose from every social media account. The physical changes came slowly. 10 pounds disappeared, then 20. My posture improved. I slept better. I began looking people in the eye again. But the most important work happened when no one was watching. I started studying. For 13 years, I had helped large companies control expenses and plan growth. Yet I had never used those skills to build anything for myself. During lunch breaks, I read about entrepreneurship, cash flow, small business taxes, and client acquisition. The opportunity came through Rosa Delgado, a friend of Isaiah's who owned a popular food truck. Customers loved her food, but she was always short of cash and terrified of tax season. I offered to review her finances for free. Within 2 weekends, I found duplicate software subscriptions, inaccurate inventory estimates, and a supplier agreement costing her nearly $1,900 more each month than she realized. I helped her renegotiate the agreement and build a 12-month cash flow plan. 3 months later, Rosa opened a second truck. She introduced me to 2 other business owners. Those owners recommended me to more people. I began working from a folding desk in my apartment after my regular job. I charged $450 a month for basic support and more for strategy projects. The first month, I earned $1,350. The second, $3,200. By month 6, I had 16 clients and several more waiting. I named the company Sullivan Financial Partners, although my only partner was a used printer that jammed almost every night. Denise noticed the change. "You look awake again," she said. "I am." "What are you building?" I explained my plan. I would save enough to cover 10 months of expenses, reach 35 clients, and resign. "You're giving up an $82,000 salary for a company operating above an auto shop?" "For now. And if you fail, then I'll fail building something that belongs to me." 19 months after Rose left, I had 36 clients and $71,000 in reserves. I submitted my resignation. On my final day, Denise gave me a framed copy of the first financial analysis I had completed for the company. It was covered with her corrections in red ink. "You were never ordinary, John," she said. "You just got comfortable living below your ability." I carried the frame home, opened my laptop, and began my first full day as the owner of Sullivan Financial Partners. I was terrified. But for the first time in years, I was afraid of a future I had chosen myself. The first year nearly destroyed me. Owning a consulting firm sounded impressive. In reality, it meant answering emails after midnight, chasing overdue invoices, fixing software problems, and handling sales, taxes, scheduling, and customer complaints. I worked between 65 and 80 hours a week, but every difficult day belonged to me. That made all the difference. Rosa introduced me to a family that owned 3 bakeries in San Antonio. Their stores were busy, but they were still losing money. I discovered that their prices had not changed in 5 years, even though ingredient and labor costs had climbed. I helped them restructure debt, adjust prices, and remove products that consistently lost money. 6 months later, they opened a 4th location. They referred me to a landscaping company. The landscaper referred me to a dental group. The dental group introduced me to several medical practices. By the end of the year, Sullivan Financial Partners advised 72 businesses across Central Texas. Our annual revenue reached $236,000. After expenses and taxes, I was not wealthy. But the company was growing, and I could finally see where it might lead. I left the apartment above the auto shop and rented a small office in North Austin. It had 2 rooms, stained carpet, and a conference table I assembled myself late one night. My first employee was Maya Chen. Maya had worked in operations for a technology startup. She was organized, direct, and unimpressed by titles. During her interview, she examined my handwritten schedules. "Your company is succeeding despite your systems." That sounds like an insult. "It's a compliment to your survival instincts." I hired her before she left the room. Maya transformed the business. She created proper systems, improved client onboarding, and taught me that saying no to a bad client could be more profitable than saying yes. By the 3rd year, we had 7 employees, 148 clients, and annual revenue approaching $710,000. I purchased a townhouse in North Austin for $465,000. It had 2 bedrooms, a home office, and large windows that filled the kitchen with sunlight. It wasn't the house Rose had taken from me. It was better. It was mine. I replaced my old sedan with a dark blue SUV that cost $56,000. I bought it because I liked it, not because I wanted anyone's approval. My body had changed too. I had lost 43 pounds and built muscle I never knew I could have. Isaiah persuaded me to enter an amateur charity boxing event. I lost by decision. When I stepped out of the ring, my lip was bleeding and one eye was swelling. But I was laughing. That night, I understood something. Pain passes, embarrassment passes, failure passes. What remains is the person you become while surviving it. I dated occasionally, but I refused to force a relationship because I was lonely. I had spent too many years believing that being chosen by someone proved my value. I would not make that mistake again. I heard about Rose through mutual friends. She and Blake had moved into a luxury condominium in downtown Austin. Rose had been promoted to senior brand director. They were engaged and planning a wedding at an expensive resort on the California coast. Maya once mentioned seeing their engagement photos online. Want to see them? No. You're not curious? Curiosity is how people reopen doors they fought hard to close. By then, Rose felt less like someone in my present and more like a city where I had once lived. I remembered the streets and the weather, but I had no desire to move back. The invitation to the Lone Star Children's Foundation Gala arrived in October. One of my largest clients, Dr. Samuel Ortiz, served on the board. His medical group had been near bankruptcy when we met. After 18 months of restructuring, it was profitable again. "You need to attend," Samuel said. "I'm not a gala person." "You're a business person. That ballroom will contain 300 company owners." The event was held at the Rosemont Hotel in Dallas. Black tie, crystal chandeliers, live string music, a silent auction where people bid more on weekend vacations than I once earned in 2 months. Maya insisted I buy a custom tuxedo. "You cannot enter a room full of millionaires wearing a suit that fits like a borrowed shower curtain." That night, I stood near the center of the ballroom speaking with the owner of a restaurant chain when I felt someone watching me. I turned. Rose stood beside a marble column. Her champagne glass froze halfway to her mouth. Her eyes moved from my face to my shoulders and finally to the badge inside my jacket. John Sullivan, founder, Sullivan Financial Partners. For several seconds, she did not move. Then her expression changed. Recognition, confusion, disbelief, and something close to panic. She began walking toward me. During the darkest nights after our divorce, I had imagined this moment. In those fantasies, I delivered a perfect speech. Rose cried. I felt powerful. But as she crossed the ballroom, I realized the truth. I no longer needed revenge. I had already outgrown the man who wanted it. "John?" Rose said my name as if she wasn't sure it still belonged to me. "Hello, Rose." She stopped several feet away and looked me over. Her hair was shorter. Fine lines had appeared near her eyes. She wore a black designer dress and the large engagement ring I had seen in photographs. "You look—" She hesitated. "I almost didn't recognize you." "I recognized you." "That isn't what I meant." "I know. What happened to you?" "Life." She laughed nervously. "I heard you started a company. I didn't realize it had become this successful." "We've done well." "We?" "My team." Before she could respond, a man approached and placed a hand against her lower back. Blake Mercer. He was tall, polished, and silver at the temples. He looked comfortable in expensive rooms. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Yes," Rose said. "Blake, this is John." His eyes focused on me. "John Sullivan?" "That's right." He shook my hand. "I know your firm. You handled the restructuring for Ortiz Medical Group. We advised them. That project came up during 2 investor meetings. Excellent work." Rose looked from him to me. "You know his company?" Blake seemed surprised. "Of course. Sullivan Financial is one of the fastest-growing independent advisory firms in Texas." For the first time that evening, Rose lost control of her expression. She had expected to introduce me as the quiet accountant she had outgrown. Instead, her fiancé knew my work. A board member called Blake from across the room. "I need to speak with them," he said. "Rose, find me in a few minutes." After he left, Rose released a slow breath. "Can we talk somewhere private?" I should have refused. Instead, I followed her onto the rooftop terrace. Downtown Dallas stretched below us. The night air was cool, and music drifted through the glass doors. Rose placed both hands on the stone railing. "I don't know what to say. You asked to talk." She turned toward me. "Do you ever think about us?" There it was. Not an apology, an attempt to open a door. "Sometimes," I said, "but probably not in the way you mean." "What does that mean?" "I remember the marriage. I remember who we were. But I don't imagine going back." Her eyes filled with tears. "I made a mistake." "What mistake?" "Leaving you." "You didn't leave because of one argument, Rose. You spent months choosing another life. I thought I wanted excitement, success, someone who moved faster. I believed you were holding me back. And now? Now I see what you became." I remained silent. "Maybe I didn't give you enough time," she said. I shook my head. "No, you were right about one thing. I wasn't growing back then." She looked confused. "I had become passive. I was comfortable and afraid. I depended on your approval. But the man standing in front of you didn't exist inside our marriage waiting to be discovered." "Could he have existed if I had stayed?" "I don't know. Probably not." Rose looked down. "I miss how safe I felt with you. That isn't the same as missing me. That's not fair. It's honest." She reached for my arm. "When I saw you tonight, I felt something I haven't felt in years." "What?" "Like I was looking at the life I should have chosen." I gently removed her hand. "You're looking at the result of the life you rejected." She flinched. "You want the finished version of a man you weren't willing to stand beside while he was unfinished." Tears ran down her cheeks. "That's cruel." "No. Cruel would be pretending we could return to something that no longer exists. Do you feel anything for me?" "I feel grateful." She stared at me. "Grateful?" "Our marriage had been failing for years, and I was too afraid to admit it. When you left, you destroyed the life I thought I needed. That forced me to build one that actually belonged to me." "So that's it?" "That was it 4 years ago. We just didn't understand it at the same time." Through the glass doors, I could see Blake speaking with donors. Rose followed my gaze. "He's a good man," she whispered. "Then don't punish him because I changed." For a moment, I saw the young woman I had loved, the woman from the backyard barbecue, our first apartment, and our cheap honeymoon in New Orleans. I could respect that memory without returning to it. "I hope you're happy, Rose," I said. "I truly do." Then I walked back into the ballroom. I did not look behind me. The next morning, she found another reason to contact me. At 9:12 the next morning, Maya entered my office carrying her tablet. "You received a consultation request from Rose Bennett." Hearing her maiden name sounded strangely formal. "What does she want?" "She says she and Blake are considering buying 2 boutique marketing agencies. They want financial due diligence." "Refer them to Patterson Advisory." Maya raised an eyebrow. "That project could be worth $25,000. "It could be worth 10 times that. We're not accepting it." "Conflict of interest?" "Conflict of history." An hour later, Rose emailed me directly. "John, last night caught me off guard. I'm sorry if I crossed a line. I would still appreciate your professional opinion. Blake respects your work, and perhaps this could prove that we are capable of behaving like adults." I read the message twice. Then I deleted it. Not because I hated her, because I finally understood that closure is not a conversation you keep having. Closure is a boundary you stop explaining. 2 days later, Blake called. "I understand you declined our project." "That's correct." "Rose didn't tell me she contacted you directly." "I assumed she hadn't." There was a pause. "Did something happen at the gala?" I could have damaged their relationship with one sentence. I could have repeated everything Rose said on the terrace. Years earlier, I might have called that justice. Instead, I answered carefully. We had an emotional conversation about our past. Nothing happened. You should discuss the rest with her. Blake remained silent. I appreciate your honesty, he finally said. I referred you to a firm I trust. They'll do good work. After the call, I expected to feel powerful. I didn't. I felt sad for all three of us, but relieved that I no longer lived inside that triangle. Rose and Blake married 5 months later at a resort near Monterey, California. I saw one photograph because Natalie accidentally showed it to me while scrolling through her phone. Rose looked beautiful. Blake looked proud. The Pacific Ocean stretched behind them. I'm sorry, Natalie said. It's fine. Does it hurt? I studied the photograph. No. It feels like the ending of a movie I stopped watching a long time ago. My life continued moving forward. Sullivan Financial Partners signed a 3-year contract with a senior care network worth $1.6 million. We hired 9 consultants and moved into a larger office overlooking the Austin Greenbelt. Maya became chief operating officer and purchased a small stake in the company. Isaiah opened a second boxing gym, and I became one of his investors. Rosa expanded her food truck business into a permanent restaurant. On opening night, she displayed a framed copy of the first financial plan I had created for her. Under it, she had written, "This plan saved my business. That meant more to me than any award." I also met Claire Morgan. Claire taught 8th grade science in Georgetown. She did not care about luxury cars, exclusive restaurants, or professional titles. We met at Isaiah's gym after I tripped over a jump rope. She laughed. You looked very confident right before that happened. I was confident. The floor disagreed. Our first date was at a small taco restaurant. Dinner cost $38. Rose would have called it ordinary. I loved it. Claire asked questions and listened to the answers. When I told her about the divorce, she did not celebrate my success or insult Rose. She simply said, "It sounds like you had to lose the life you planned before you could build the life you actually wanted." That was when I knew she understood me. A year after the gala, Claire and I bought a house outside Austin for $640,000. It had 3 bedrooms, a home office, and a large backyard. We adopted a brown rescue dog named Ranger, who immediately decided the living room couch belonged to him. One Saturday, I drove past my old apartment above the repair shop. The auto service sign was gone. The building had been repainted, but I recognized the bathroom window where I had once looked into the mirror and said, "Enough." I parked across the street. A young man carried boxes up the stairs. He looked exhausted and overwhelmed. I wondered what he had lost. I wondered what he might build. That apartment had once felt like proof that my life was over. Now it felt like sacred ground. That was where I stopped waiting for someone to rescue me. That was where humiliation became discipline, discipline became confidence, and confidence became freedom. I did not need Rose to regret leaving. Her regret was never the reward. The reward was becoming a man who no longer needed it. 2 years after the gala, Natalie asked me a question over dinner. "Do you think Rose still regrets leaving?" Claire was in the kitchen cutting cake. Ranger slept beneath the table. Rain tapped against the windows of the house I had once been afraid to imagine. "Maybe," I said. "And you don't care?" "I care about what happened. I just don't need it to end differently anymore." Natalie smiled. "That took you a long time." "It took exactly as long as it needed to." Later, after everyone had gone home, I walked into my office. The framed financial analysis Denise had given me sat on one shelf. Beside it was a photograph of my team in our new office, a picture of Isaiah and me outside his second gym, and another of Claire holding Ranger on adoption day. People often describe stories like mine as revenge stories. They assume the best moment was watching Rose realize what she had lost. It wasn't. The best moment was realizing I had not lost myself forever. For years, I believed Rose had destroyed my life. The truth was more complicated. She destroyed the structure I had mistaken for a life. The marriage, the house, the shared savings, the routines. When those things disappeared, I believed nothing remained. But underneath them was a man I had ignored for years. He was afraid. He had grown soft from comfort. He depended on someone else's approval. But he was also capable of more than he understood. The divorce did not create my strength. It revealed where strength needed to be built. There is a difference. I do not thank Rose for betraying me. Betrayal is still betrayal. I do not excuse the lies or the way our divorce became a financial war. Pain does not become acceptable simply because something good eventually grows from it. But I refuse to let the worst thing Rose did become the most important thing about me. That decision belongs to me. Sullivan Financial Partners now advises businesses in 5 states. We employ 26 people. Our projected annual revenue is slightly above $3.6 million. Years ago, those numbers would have felt like proof that I had won. Now I measure success differently. Success is returning my sister's calls. It is closing my laptop before dinner. It is walking Ranger before sunrise. It is listening when Claire tells me about her students. It is remembering my old life without wanting to return to it or punish anyone for how it ended. Several months ago, a handwritten letter arrived at my office. There was no return address, but I recognized Rose's handwriting. John, I'm not writing to reopen anything. I finally understand that seeing you at the gala made me confuse regret with love. I wasn't only grieving our marriage. I was grieving the version of myself who believed there would always be another door waiting for me. You were right to close yours. I hope your life is good. Rose. I folded the letter and sat quietly. Then I placed it in the paper shredder. Not because I wanted to hurt her. Some messages are meant to be received, understood, and released. That evening, Claire and I sat on the back porch while Ranger chased insects across the yard. The Texas sky turned orange above the trees. "What are you thinking about?" Claire asked. "How strange it is that the worst apartment I ever lived in helped lead me to the best life I've ever had." She rested her head against my shoulder. "Maybe it wasn't the apartment." "No," I said. "It was the decision I made inside it. If you are hearing this while your own life is falling apart, I will not insult you by saying everything happens for a reason. Some things happen because people are selfish. Some losses are unfair. Some betrayals leave wounds that take years to heal. But destruction is not always the end of the story. Sometimes it exposes what was already broken. Sometimes it creates space. Sometimes the moment that humiliates you becomes the moment that wakes you up. You cannot always control who leaves. You cannot control what they take or what they say afterward. But you can control what you build in the empty space. Rose believed she was leaving an ordinary man. For a while, I believed it too. Then I discovered that being ordinary was never my identity. It was only the size of the life I had accepted. The night Rose grabbed my sleeve and asked whether she had thrown away the best thing that had ever happened to her, I could have said yes. But that would not have been true. I was not the best thing that ever happened to Rose, and Rose leaving was not the best thing that happened to me. The best thing happened the morning I looked at my reflection and stopped waiting for someone else to recognize my value. That was the day my real life began. Not when Rose regretted losing me, when I stopped regretting losing her.